Hardcore Henry is a shot of adrenaline. I say that because while it really kicks you into high gear while it is in effect, after it wears off, you are left with nothing of substance and the feeling of what you just experienced going away relatively quickly. This isn't to say Hardcore Henry is a bad film at all. The film's problem is the fact that it feels more like a tech demo of what could have been. It's funny to say that though, as the director of Hardcore Henry also directed a Biting Elbows music video for the song Bad Motherfucker that is essentially a tech demo in and of itself. I highly recommend you check out the music video as it is pretty much hardcore in 4 minutes, albeit on a lower budget. Still a lot of fun, and I will link it down in the description below. Hardcore Henry is a 2015 science fiction action film shot from the first person point of view. Everyone complains about video game movies sucking so much, but this movie pretty much takes the formula and flips it on its head by mixing the two together. The story of the film is the definition of simple. Your wife is kidnapped by the bad guys, and you gotta go get her back, you badass. Well, there is a bit more to it than that, involving telekinetic psychopaths, an army of mercenaries, and a mysterious character aiding you. After the first 10 or so minutes of the film showing you get Adam Jensen back together by your wife, her research lab is attacked. This attack is led by a mysterious telekinetic warlord by the name of Akon, who wants your wife for some reason or other. After an escape attempt, your wife is kidnapped, and it is up to you to blast your way through the streets of Moscow to get her back, with the film taking you from a shootout to a set piece, rinse and repeat until the finale of the film. Now, you may realize I've been calling the protagonist you. That's because while he does have the name of Henry, Henry's just there as a vehicle for the audience member to fill the shoes of. While Henry does have some personality with the use of his body language, that's about it, as due to plot reasons, he is not able to speak. Lee is just there for the audience to input as. I like the fact that they try to give what is essentially just a POV shot a character. I sadly can't say the same for a good majority of the few other characters who have more screen time than a few moments. Henry's wife is incredibly bland, and while she might not really need a character for the role she plays, she really could have just been a video message at the beginning of the film asking you to be rescued, and it would have been the same thing. She was just there, and that isn't the actress's fault. There just wasn't much reason for me to get invested in Henry saving her outside of the fact that he wants to do the right thing. The other major characters outside of Henry/audience is a strange man by the name of Jimmy, who shows up sporadically throughout the plot of the film. Every time Henry met up with Jimmy, Jimmy would always be in a different attire, and while I like this, the actor trying to change the personality to fit the costume change was a bit forced. When Jimmy did act more grounded, I preferred it quite a bit to some of the more wackier stuff. I know there was a plot reason for him doing this, but it still felt incredibly unnatural, and it's just not that funny or charming most of the time. I did, however, like the fact that Jimmy served as the film's objective updater. So, the villain Akon exists. He shows up, overreacts, then leaves. If you're lucky, he might do something, but most of the time he would just threaten Henry with doing something, then put Henry back onto the story. While I really like the idea of Akon's character, he just barely got any development and screen time. I hear that there is a comic that details him quite a bit more, but I haven't read this, and I shouldn't have to read it to know about the character I'm seeing on screen. Again, like Jimmy, most of his attempts at humor fall flat, but at least he was a straight up villain, and the end boss battle with him was quite fun, if not a bit short-lived. That is about it in terms of characters, and outside of a surprisingly well-known actor popping up for a genuinely touching scene, the rest of the population of the film were just civilians and enemy grunts. The film sounds pretty darn good, and the adjustment between volumes for everything happening was a good kind of whiplash, with things being quiet 1 minute, then turning into a chaotic gunfighter chase scene the next. Guns, explosions, and screams all sounded really good. The soundtrack fit the scenes each song accompanied. It felt as though for each major action scene, there's a fitting song for it. And while it was used in the trailer as a trailer song, Don't Stop Me Now wasn't just limited to the trailer, and is used for one of the best action scenes of the film. The locations of the film had a nice variety of scenery that Henry romps his way through. The most notable scenes are the highway chase, the abandoned hotel escape, and the rooftop finale that reminded me of Left 4 Dead, which actually has a poster in the film, so that could actually be a possible reference to it. Now, aside from 1 or 2 moments of calm, this film is almost completely non-stop action after the setup of the plot. From the moment the escape pod crashes down on the busy overpass, Henry is going to let all hell break loose. Every scene is a form of a shootout or brawl onto the next one. While the action throughout the film is really well done, the first third of the film has a bit of a problem with things being too dark and shaking a bit too much. It doesn't ruin the film, it just makes it harder to see the on-screen carnage. Thankfully, after this bit of the movie, the camera doesn't shake nearly as much and it is a lot easier to see what is happening. I love how everything that happens in the film is pretty much just varied stages from video games. I mean, this film is pretty much nothing more than a love letter to first-person shooters, and it really shows. From having an on-rails turret chase scene to having a sniper and escort mission, it emulates the level structure quite well. There are even points in the film where Henry glitches to the next scene like a video game loading screen. Shootouts are wonderfully graphic, and I'm amazed at some of the stuff they were able to get away with. Some of the on-screen kills are brutal, and the way Henry dispatches bad guys is varied enough from just a few variations of gun or hand-to-hand combat. I'll tell you right now, I was not expecting the way the finale scene wound up ending. While all the practical effects were great, there was some CGI here and there, and oh boy, this wasn't good at all. The CGI looked like it was ripped straight from a PS1 FMV cutscene, and it really took me out of the movie anytime it would happen. I only really counted 3 major times this occurred, but it was still incredibly jarring. When the action wasn't focused on the exchange of gunfire, it was focused on the film's crazy free running and parkour scenes. The stunts that the actor who played Henry managed to pull off were incredibly fun and also very nail-biting. Overall, Hardcore Henry is a fun romp from start to finish, but once the credits of the film start to roll, the experience will leave your system. The movie really reminded me of one of those forgotten 90s FPS games that people have fond memories of, but remember nothing about the game in the end. There's a lot of action, but no real substance when you really get down to it. The main reason to watch it is for the crazy stunts and action scenes, and to lose yourself for about an hour and a half. This is one of those movies where you just turn off your brain and have fun. Then after it's done, move on. So yeah, if you don't get motion sickness and want to self-insert into a fun but lifeless adventure, give Hardcore Henry a watch. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please consider sharing the video with your friends or checking out my Patreon linked in the description below. If you have anything to recommend I review or have anything to say in general, I look forward to reading it down below in the comments. A very special thank you to the show's first patron. They wish to stay anonymous, but I want to give them a big thank you. This is Theory Williamson, signing off until the next video. See you guys!